Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I share my thoughts and opinions on the latest issue 1 comic books that I read for the current comic book week. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content and you like me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy and you haven't subscribed yet, hopefully you will. Guys, we got some pretty dark issue 1s to talk about this week. Whether they're good or not, you'll find out in a second. So we're going to start with a couple of books that are not so scary, and then we'll dive into the darker side of things. And just remember, guys, the show is all for fun. This is my thoughts and opinions on comic books. At the end of the day, you're going to make the ultimate decision if you buy a comic or not, or if you agree with me or not. That's what makes this series and this hobby so much fun. So, Mystique issue 1 is the first book we're talking about. This book is 40 pages for the price of $5. The writer and artist here is Declan Shavely, or Shavely, I don't know if I say that right. Listen, when it comes to the cover art in this comic book, it's not impressive in my opinion. It's Mystique's face just throws me off in this comic book, right? And the interior artwork in here is more of the same. It's just not something that I can really gravitate with within the comic book. Certain things that happen in the comic are kind of confusing because Mystique is a shapeshifter, so they don't always make a clear distinction of really, of her always transforming. Yes, you do get to see it, but it's very, you gotta really pay attention to it. It just, there's certain elements in here that I think that they could have done better. And it just didn't work for me, right? And at the end of the day, you wind up seeing this book be about Nick Fury and him chasing Mystique, and how do you chase after somebody that's kind of always in the shadows, that can shapeshift at any time. We wind up getting to see the return of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a way. We do get to see Nick Fury Sr. and Jr. Meet with each other, which was actually kind of cool. You don't get to see that all so often. But there wasn't anything here that just really excited me about Mystique and her invading, and getting back at Nick Fury and doing all these different types of things. Like, there just wasn't a hook for me. I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. For me, I just felt like it was just kind of boring, just kind of there. And it's just like, at the end of the day, do we really need a Mystique miniseries? I think not. So for me, this book was not worthy. You get left with a cliffhanger thinking, uh-oh, this particular character got killed. But I don't think it's that at all. I think it's just led to you to believe that, but they're not going to do that, right? So when you read the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. But with poor artwork and just an overall slow setup, I couldn't get into it. And I think at the end of the day, this book gets a D+ for me. It's unfortunate, again, I wasn't having high hopes for this series to begin with, but I guess, for me, it just, I don't know, it just missed the mark. Batman and Robin, year 1. This one is a 28-page comic for the price of $4. This one's written by Mark Waid and Chris Samney. These guys did Daredevil together a while back, and it was a great series, in my opinion. So when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I'm picking this up, and I'm definitely a fan of Samney's artwork. He has this very much lighter feel to what could be, a very dark comic book, right? And I felt like his artwork did fit this comic because we get the early days of Batman and Robin here, right? Because this is a year 1 storyline. And we get to see Dick Grayson in here when he first is teaming up with Bruce Wayne or Batman, and he gets to go on his first missions, and he's all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and he's all excited, and what made this comic book fun was Batman adjusting to him having a partner, and it's like he's going out on a mission here on the Batmobile, and he's like, oh yeah, Batman, we're gonna get ready to have some fun, and he's just like, sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you because you're not talking. He's like, no, this is my time to focus. So It's them just, actually coming up with that chemistry with each other that was fun. And this just had a classic feel, like I said, like old Bat Signal stuff, old Commissioner Gordon stuff, and just, again, Batman just being that father figure that he never has been yet, right? So just seeing all those different elements in this comic book was fun. Seeing the Batmobile and all the explosive action was really a lot of fun as well. The only thing that I wasn't sure of at the end was maybe the bad guy in this particular issue who is making his appearance for the first time in this in Gotham. But besides that, I thought this book was definitely worthy. If you're a Batman and Robin fan, if you're a Dick Grayson fan, you like old school Batman, I think you're going to love this comic book. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one an A. The reason why it just doesn't get the top grade for me is because I was a little shaky about the end. So we'll see how it continues to develop as the story goes on. All right, now it's time to get to that supernatural and scary element. We have The Exorcism at 1600 pen issue 1. This book is 52 pages for the price of $5. Written from Hannah Rose May, and the art is done by Vanessa R. Del Rey. When it came to the artwork in this comic, it's very weird. It's a little scratchy. It's a little gritty. The facial expressions are not the greatest. However, you can make out the characters that are in the comic book because honestly, there's not a ton of them, right? And what this comic book is about is you get a family that's been sworn in and they're living in the White House, and you get to see a lot of politics in this comic book. So if you are expecting supernatural things right from the start, like an exorcism from the first page to the end, you're going to be highly disappointed with this comic book. If you don't mind reading things that are going on in politics, right, you're going to like this comic book because that's what you get to see. It goes from climate change to war, just to all kinds of different things. You get to see the family. You get to see the kids, how they are trying to adjust to schools and how they constantly get social media threats and get bullied and all these different types of everyday elements as a family dealing with being, in the political spotlight. That's basically really what this comic was about. And you get very, very few of the of the supernatural elements here, and it does have to deal with the daughter, because by the time you get to the end of it, you would think that Mara, who is the main character here, is the one that looks like is the one that's going to get possessed by some demon, some devil, or whatever it is. But out of about 52 pages, you're going to get 50 pages of political craziness. What's the demon here? Is it the demon itself or is it the politics? I don't know. But for me, I was just waiting for something to happen and it really didn't deliver. If I want to see politics, I will watch it on TV. I don't need to read 50 pages of it. So for me, this book is not worthy. It might get better as time goes along. It might get darker, creepier, scarier. But for the first issue, you gotta give me a little bit more than this, right? So, yeah, at the end of the day, I just kept on waiting for something to happen and happen and happen. And I got more and more frustrated as things got along. So this one gets a D- from me. Definitely some potential here, but you gotta sell me on that first issue, man. The next book we're talking about is like a B-rated horror movie, right? This is Godfather of Hell. This is issue 1. It's a $5 comic book. Kevin Scott is the writer here. Pius Bach is the actual artist. I feel like the art did lack some details, right? I would love to see a little bit more, especially when you get like these horror comic books. You want that detail, grotesque stuff that actually happens in the comic. And when it lacks that grittiness, that horrorness, the grotesque of the comic, right? But overall, I thought the book was serviceable and it did its job. And what this comic is about the main character named Dario Santini, and he's like this hitman, you know, doing hits for the mob boss. And let's just say, like, you know, things caught up with him and he winds up dying, and he gets shot and he falls to the ground and he winds up in hell, and he's suffering in hell. His intestines are flying out of him. He breaks into different pieces. And then what happens is he does something impeccable, like no other would do in hell. He takes on this like crazy like demon like creature right here, and then he winds up getting recruited to be the hitman for Satan, and he's gonna collect debts, which I thought was pretty interesting, right? And the creature that hired him to actually do this, his name is Samuel. He's the 7th Duke of Hell, Lord of the Damned, and he's the husband of Lilith. Now, if you guys have read Vault Comics as of recent, Lilith is a character that came out, or it's a book that came out a couple weeks ago, and she is a female that's posing as a model. I don't know if this is connected or not, but she's trying to get back home. So is this her home? Is this connected? Is this her husband? I don't know. I don't know if the two things are connected or not, but I did find that interesting if you read that series. Now, this guy gets sent back to Earth, and again, is the hitman and is the debt collector for Satan. Now, what changes this person takes is quite interesting, and you'll have to read it for yourself. So I do think this book is worthy. Definitely has me intrigued. I don't think maybe it was the best book, but it was fun. It's just like one of those guilty pleasure movies that you put on and you're doing chores, and then all of a sudden you start looking up and you start watching it. Right? So pretty cool. I'm going to give this one a C+. If you guys pick this one up, let me know in the comments below. I don't know how many of you guys are actually going to read of this or even heard of this, but this is Def Leppard's Hysteria issue 0. This is based off of one of their CDs that came out in the 90s, and it was called Hysteria. Def Leppard is one of my favorite bands of all time. If you guys have never heard of them, check them out on Spotify, man. They're great. They're an 80s, 90s band. That was like the peak of their popularity. Just great musicians overall. Just awesome. So when I heard that this was coming out, I'm like, dude, I have to pick this up. And I wasn't disappointed. I can tell you that, right? Here is the interior artwork in here. Okay, looks pretty good. And the art is done by Alex Schlitz. And the writers here are Elliot Rahal and also Phil Collin, who is the lead guitarist for Def Leppard. So him putting his input in this comic, I thought was a lot of fun, right? So here's a cool little page right here. Now, this reminded me of the horror series, what was it, The Silver Coin or something like that, where the guy played the guitar and it was a demon guitar and it took over his fingers and he couldn't stop playing. Something like that, right? But it is much different when you get to the meat and potatoes of this comic book. So you start with a story that takes place in the 60s, and then we go into modern day, okay? And we're in Chicago, Illinois. There's this punk band with 3 members called Dark Side, all right? And this chick is listening to this podcast that's on the radio. She's the lead of the band, and something really bad happened in the concert that night, right? And we wind up getting to see the manager calling her and trying to smooth things over, and she destroyed her guitar, and now she has to go into her father's storage unit to find this guitar. Now, when you read this comic book, this guitar, right, based off of the first story, is possessed. It's demon-like. So what's it going to do in the future for people that possess this guitar, right? We'll have to read and find out. But I thought this book was worthy. Absolutely worthy. It's a very intriguing hook when you get to the end of the story, and it makes you want to know about more of the lead characters, the band, what they're going to go through in the future. And I'm happy this comic has come out. I would have never thought that we would get a Def Leppard comic. So this one was a little bit short, just because it's an issue 0, right? And I'm going to give this one an A-. I would have loved a little bit more story here. Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu, issue 1. This book is 32 pages for the price of $5. The legacy numbering is 241. It's written and continued to be written by Jed MacKay, and the art is done by Alessandro Cappuccino. Cappuccino, is that how you say his name? Capiccio? I think that's how it is. This is like the third volume of Moon Knight that Jed MacKay is writing. And this book is off to a decent start. If you've never jumped on Moon Knight, this is definitely the perfect jumping on point because it catches you up of what the Midnight Mission is, what Moon Knight has been through during Blood Hunt, and who his cast of characters actually are. And again, if you've never seen the artwork in a Moon Knight comic book right now, this is what you can expect. It looks fantastic. All the characters are rich in detail. It's very much a dark comic book when Moon Knight is very, very bright, so it makes sense to do it like that. You get introduced or reintroduced to all the cast of characters. So like I said, this is a perfect jumping on point for new readers here. And the main story is you wind up getting to see this detective, interview another detective here, trying to find out this, the skinny or the scoop on Moon Knight. But meanwhile, Moon Knight is going into a nightclub, and he's going and kind of meeting up with this character by the name of Achilles Fairchild, okay? And we find out there's this new drug that's being pushed along the streets, and it's called glitter, and it's addicting people very quickly, and it's causing harm in the city. And when you cause harm in the city for Moon Knight, it's definitely a very rough situation for the person on the other end. So really a solid book and definitely very much worthy. So again, if you've been on the fence about picking up a Moon Knight book, this is it. If you have not liked Jed MacKay's other writing in his other books, this is the book that you're going to want to pick up because I think he's got a firm handle on this particular character. So at the end of the day, this book is going to get an A+ from me. I really enjoyed it. I'm happy I stuck with this series overall. All right, here we go. We got probably the book that's most Halloween themey, I guess. This is Batman Full Moon. This is issue 1. It's 32 pages for $6. It's a lot of money, but you get that gimmicky glow-in-the-dark cover, right? And so I had to test out the glow-in-the-dark cover. This was like the little kid in me. So I took the comic book, right? I take it, I put it to the light, like really, really good, and I went into the bathroom. I turned off the lights. I'm like, oh, man, this is awesome. Like, I was like, This is true glow in the dark. It's really bright, it's not cheesy or dim or anything like that. So I think they did a good job with the glow in the dark cover. So that earns respect in my book, right? So this book is written by Rodney Barnes and the art is done by Stefan Subic. The artwork is okay. I get what they're going for, this much like darker theme. It definitely gives me an Andrea Sorrentino vibe when I'm reading this comic and looking at the artwork. There's things that are very mysterious. You want to keep the werewolf in the shadows. You don't exactly see everything that's going on. But for me, I feel that I want a werewolf book to be very detailed. I want it to be in your face, gory, bloody. Like, I want to see it, man. That's what's going to set this book apart from other things. But I do get what they were trying to go for here, trying to keep it mysterious and dark. The character designs in this comic, I don't know, they were okay. Like, Batman looked fine, but same thing, he's almost too dark. Commissioner Gordon's real dark. You don't get to see his face all that often. There is a point in time where you do get to see Bruce Wayne in the comic. He's like super white as a ghost. Like, I don't know what they're going for in that color there, but hey, it is what it is. You do get to see the werewolf at one point. So, listen, the artwork wasn't perfect. I would have liked something a little bit different, but it's the way they roll with it, right? Now, when it comes to this story here, we wind up getting to see this particular soldier who was captured, and they're doing experiments for him. The full moon comes out. He breaks free. He winds up killing other people, and now Batman's trying to capture him. And he's doing this investigation at first, trying to figure out who it is. You wind up seeing Batman doing this crazy battle with this werewolf, and he gets his ass handed to him. And of course, the werewolf is like fighting itself, its human side and its wolf side, and he kind of escapes, and Batman escapes, and Batman is just like in the Batcave recovering for, I don't know, you don't really know how long. It's like an hour, a couple hours, a day or two, whatever it is. Batman gets fucked up, dude. Like, seriously, he's like dying. And like, he literally goes out onto the mission, like, I don't know, what seems like the next day or so. And you would think that the dude doesn't even walk, right? And what I'm expecting in this comic book is I'm expecting Batman to be infected, to become a werewolf himself, because he suffered through these traumatic injuries. And based off of the explanation of what happened to this particular soldier, you would think that Batman is going to become a wolf himself. And the ending is kind of interesting as well, so we'll see where it goes. This book is worthy. Is it perfect? No, I don't think it's perfect in any stretch of the imagination. Actually, I was a little let down by it. I'm not sure where they're going to go in the long term with it, but I am intrigued. I wish the artwork was a little bit better, but I do understand where they're going with it. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one just a solid B. I think it's a fun read to get you in the mood for Halloween, and hopefully we get some cool werewolf action. Does Batman become a werewolf? I would like to see that, because again, it would just be fun. So there you have it, guys. There are all the new issue ones that I read for the week. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Love hearing and seeing all those comments in the comment section below. And if you want to watch more content, there's more content right here for you to click on. So remember, guys, support those local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, and always read your comics so we can have great comic conversation just like we do today. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you real soon.